hate groups. Today we are going to talk about hate groups in Pearl River. Now there were two hate groups that were here. In the 1920s we had Ku Klux Klan. A lot of people don't believe that. And in the 1930s we had the Nazi Bund. The Ku Klux Klan came into prominence in America after Woodrow Wilson screened the film Birth of a Nation in 1915. There was a resurgence in the country and everybody was motivated or energized by joining these groups, and Pearl River was no different. The newspaper here in town, the Pearl River News, was originally sympathetic to the Ku Klux Klan. In 1923, in June of 1923, they put into the paper that a group of Klansmen in full regalia were waiting for a certain someone to come off of the 5 o'clock train pulling into the Pearl River station. Now I'm paraphrasing. But obviously they were looking for somebody to give a beating to. Now New York State was, Binghamton, New York, was the hotbed and center of Klan activity in New York State. Another article or incident that had occurred and became an article was in the morning, commuters and men going to work found leaflets thrown out of cars all over town supporting and promoting the Ku Klux Klan. They came from Binghamton, New York. There was no hiding it. The Pearl River News, run by Bill Evans, had on its masthead an all-American newspaper. And all-American was really what they were all about. There were blacks living here, African Americans, in Pearl River as early as the late 1840s. And they worked in a cigar factory, they attended the Baptist church, and they had lived here for a very long time. Most, after the factory went out of business after the Civil War, were moved to Nyack to find work. But there were still a small group of individuals here. It's not blacks that they were against. It was Catholics, because the rumor in the United States was that the Pope was going to come to the United States and, using millions of dollars that he supposedly had, was going to build a palace in Washington, D.C. and attempt to control the country, which I find quite laughable, to say the least. But that's who the prejudice was against. And also immigrants. At this time, immigrants were really starting to flood America. There was an incident my aunt told me. She used to tell me at holidays, because she knew we lived in Pearl River and she would visit. And she said that a group of about 4 or 5 Italian, Sicilian actually, Catholic families lived on Schoolhouse Road within the Pearl River School District. The Klan burned a cross on their lawn and then came back after they didn't leave and burnt the house down. The men didn't know what to do, so they went to her uncle, who was a bootlegger, and they said, "How can we rectify this?" So he told them, rebuild the house, which they did, and on a Sunday morning, I'll send a photographer. All the boys and the men should hold shotguns. This they did. The picture was taken, and the boys were sent to deliver it to every Klansman who owned a home and a business in town. After that, the harassment stopped. But it was well known and open to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. A Corporal Bass from the New York State Police laid a KKK black wreath on Memorial Day in 1924. And it was, wide open. There was no condemnation. This was, carried on until the KKK itself was discredited by a man in the FBI who gave a children's program all their secret code words. And this made them feel stupid with their children running around saying it, and it sort of lessened the effect, especially in the North. In the South, there was always this hatred of blacks. Once this KKK scourge subsided, then we went to Nazis. German Americans were feeling proud of the progress of Adolf Hitler after the Weimar tragedy of hyperinflation in the economy, and they started to meet at a place called the Waldschloss Inn, which was on Earhart Road, which eventually became Dietrich's, and then a medical arts building. And their leader was Fritz Kuhn, who attempted to threaten the President of the United States. So the local police and the FBI, the New York State Police, would sit across the street in their cars in a stakeout and take the names of the individuals who were going into Pop Schultz's Waldschloss Inn. Pop Schultz had been the master brewer at the Rupert Beer Company in New York, and he had come to open this little eatery and was heavily involved in Bund. So we did have Bund, and we did have KKK. As a matter of fact, on July 24th of 1924, the largest traffic jam ever was held. There was a man named J.E.A. Moore, who had a large piece of property on Middletown Road. It was his estate. And the people came. They invited Dr. Space from Binghamton, New York, to speak. And they held a rally. So there was a KKK rally right here in Pearl River on Middletown Road. Men were stationed to check credentials. And Space spoke about Americanism and the dislike of foreign ways. So that it was amazing because 1,500 people showed up, and at that time there were 4,600 people in all of Orangetown. So this was a large supported rally for the KKK. The last KKK bit was in 1929, the Catholic Church was burnt down. And it is suspected that the KKK did this. Then in 1935, a number of Klansmen in full regalia marched in the Memorial Day Parade. And Father Cornelius Hayes of St. Margaret's in the paper said, "We know it's against Catholics. We have no Jews here, very few blacks, and it must be Catholics. It's got to be us." They refused to march into the parade on Memorial Day down Central Avenue until 1975. So that's a bit of hate history, and a lot of people don't know that. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Stay socially distanced. Thank you.